Whether you're ordering wings for the game, whipping up a 7-layer dip, or ordering pizza, there's something about football that makes you want to eat. And this football season, Uber Eats has the best deals on game day food. No matter what you're craving, from 2-for-1 pizza to buy one, get one wings, Uber Eats will be dropping new deals each week, all season long. Uber Eats, official on-demand delivery partner of the NFL. Order now. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Every cup of Nespresso coffee is an invitation to transform your morning routine into a ritual you can treasure each and every day. Using the Virtuo Pup, a simple touch of the button freshly brews bold aromas and a rich, velvety crema layer for delicious cafe-quality coffee at home. Whether you enjoy your coffee hot or over ice, every sip, every morning is unforgettable. Nothing tastes like Nespresso coffee. Visit Nespresso.com or our app to explore our full range of easy-to-use machines and coffees not found anywhere else.
The Dental Download podcast is your source for insight from conversations with fellow dentists, specialists, and leaders in the industry. With new episodes every Monday morning, I'm your host, Dr. Haley. Let's get into this week's episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Dental Download podcast. Happy Monday. We're going to be doing a pretty quick episode this week. 5 tips for making the most of your associate role. So the role that I'm currently in. 8 months in. I know I have so much wisdom to share after 8 months, but I still think it can be interesting to hear my perspective. And of course, I'm taking in advice that I've received from others throughout my time already as well. So let's get right into it with the first tip. Number 1, be confident and be humble. Very contradictory, right? But really, we all know that most of life, the most logical, best thing is like somewhere in the middle, not being too far in any one direction or spectrum. A lot of times, the best place to exist is kind of in a balanced harmony. So you want to be confident, but you also want to be humble. Where the humbleness comes into things is that you don't want to be too confident where you can't take criticism or you don't seek feedback. And you also don't want to be too humble where you lack confidence and make your patients and your team doubt your abilities. So in order to grow, we know we have to take criticism. So the humbleness, it's really important to ask for feedback from the people that you work with, whether that's the front office, the hygiene team, the other doctors. If you do work with other doctors, even your patients, sometimes you can ask them, how was this visit for you? And see what they have to say. You can also critique yourself and be open to the fact that your work isn't perfect and how could it improve. So those are all really important ways to grow, is realizing what ways you fell short and how you could maybe improve that next time. But on the other side of the spectrum, part of this whole first tip is being confident. And I think that's so, so crucial and one of the areas that most new grads struggle. Because maybe they just aren't confident. So what are they supposed to do? Probably fake it till you make it is the best answer I could give you in that scenario. But really, really, you have to appear confident when you're speaking to patients, when you're speaking to your team members, when you're communicating with other doctors, because people pick up on, vibes so much that if you seem timid or like you don't even believe in what you're telling them is the right plan, or you don't believe in your ability to execute it well, it's going to come off in your body language, in the way that you're pacing and saying what you're saying, or even the words that you're saying. So you really, really have to appear confident so that other people feel confident. And that snowballs into so many things. It's better relationships with your team members, with your patients. It's increased trust from your patients, which is increased case acceptance, which is increased production. All these many things. Confidence is so key. Tip number 2, learn the business. You hear this a lot, and I feel like a lot of people that maybe think, I don't even know if I want to be an owner, or I feel awkward trying to get this information or ask questions depending on the dynamic of the place you work. You are entitled to know how you are contributing to the business, which means you're entitled to know about the business, generally speaking. So whether you want to own or not, it's so worth trying to understand more about how the office runs and not just show up, do dentistry, cash a paycheck, go home. There's so much more you can take in about leadership, communication, finances, all of the things that go into running an office well. And I personally just have a lot of conversations with my owner doctors about the ins and outs of the practice, very openly, just like relay information to me as it comes up. Like, oh, they got an email today from the financial planner. Oh, Haley, take a look at this. You can kind of see how we track these things monthly. Like they'll just organically kind of show me things as we go. We don't have a dedicated time that we go through practice financials, or I know I could always talk to the office manager too if I had questions. Like it's a very transparent, open, supportive environment. But even if you don't have that, I would try to create something towards that direction, because whether you're in a public health clinic, so that's more Medicaid based, a high production insurance driven practice, very low patient volume, high production practice that's more cosmetics or surgical based, where you're doing less patients but bigger procedures, like whatever the model is, there's something to learn, whether it's privately owned or corporately owned. There's so much you can learn that you could take into whatever your next step is going to be in life. Deciding whether or not to open a practice is a big decision, but saving 25% on ADEC dental equipment, that's an easy one. As dentists who are passionate about detail, we can relate to the reason ADEC manufactures the majority of components that go into their equipment and then scientifically tests for a minimum 20-year life. It's reliable. So if you're considering owning your own practice, check out ADEC Smart Start, a special savings program designed to help you jumpstart your first practice with up to 25% off retail pricing for ADEC equipment, furniture, and clinical purchases, plus complimentary professional services. That goes for ongoing purchases for the next 2 years. Use the link in my show notes to learn more and start smart with ADEC. Okay, tip number 3, making the most of your associate role. That is going to be setting your own goals, set your own deadlines, set your own check-in points. You can't expect people to just lay out the path for you anymore, like maybe you had going through, how do I get through undergrad to get into dental school? How do I get through dental school? Here's the list of curriculum. Here's the list of clinical things I have to accomplish to be considered competent to graduate. Here's the list of procedures I have to do to pass boards. It's not like that once you graduate and once you're working. You have to decide what you want and what your goals are and set, mini goals for the big goals, if that's quarterly or just breaking things down to be more attainable. Set deadlines, set when you're going to check in. How are you going to evaluate certain things? How are you going to track different metrics? And really just figuring out like what you want out of that role and how you can grow in it, which we're going to kind of talk about in the next couple tips. But you really have to set your own goals and deadlines. And if you're more curious about how I do that, in a few episodes ago, I did my 2025 clinical goals for the year, and that would be a really great place for you to go if you're wondering what kind of goals could you be setting. Tip number 4 to make the most of your associate role is assure that you're on the same page of whoever is running your practice. So if you mostly communicate with like an office manager or regional manager type person, or if you're directly with a single owner or multiple owners, but make sure you're on the same page when it comes to growth opportunities. Whether or not things were or were not in your contract, just on a person-to-person level, talk to them. See like those goals that you made in step number 3, bring them to them. Say, hey, these are the things I want to accomplish in the next 6 months, in the next year, and I would love to benefit the office in XYZ way by growing this specific skill set. How do you think we can make that happen? And really saying in a way like, what do I need to do as the associate? And also, what could you do to help support that? And also it will bring up like, how is the practice currently? Will it support those goals that you have, whether they're income goals or number of patients or scope of procedures? Like, do you have the patient demographics for that? Lots of different things to consider, and that's something that you want to be on the same page as your boss. Also, like, are they open to making adjustments? If the practice is not currently functioning that way, is it feasible to make adjustments? Is it something they're willing to do, or is it just not going to work for that, again, patient demographic or office structure? It's just not the way they want to do things. And if you find that out sooner rather than later, it's going to help you make the most of things, but also maybe realize that there's another place you could be that might be a better fit. Last tip, tip number 5, with the most motivation ending off the episode: go all in your associate role. Whatever the role may be, whether you're like me and you love it there and this feels like your forever office, or you're like some of my friends that are looking for new jobs already, or they just feel like this is a stepping stone to whatever good opportunity comes next, you still can be all in every day and showing up with a positive attitude and a growth mindset and kind of living out these other tips, regardless of how much you think this opportunity is or isn't what you necessarily wanted. There's still something you can totally get out of any dental job, even if it's not the right job for you. I'm not saying you should stay there forever. You can be actively looking for a new job if you want to do cosmetics and the office you're at doesn't have any patients that want to pay for that treatment, and maybe they just need a bunch of extractions and root canals. In that time, have a growth mindset that I'm going to get really good at extractions and root canals while I'm looking for a job more cosmetically focused. You can still maximize any place that you're at and gain things from that. Or maybe you just really hate root canals and extractions, but that's the office you're in. Focus on the bread and butter dentistry. See if you can get some patients to accept cosmetic cases. Take it as a challenge to work on your communication skills and your treatment planning skills and your case acceptance skills, and see what you can do. Maybe you'll surprise yourself. And then when you get into a practice that is already more cosmetically driven, you'll just be that much better at communicating that value to the patients. So really, any opportunity that you're in, you can maximize that opportunity. And it might not be clinical growth, but it could be. It could be clinical, it could be personal growth, it could be mental growth. You'll never really know till you look back on an opportunity the ways that you grew. But by setting goals in all different aspects of how you want to improve as a person and a clinician, you can do that in any associate role. You just have to go into it with the right mindset. So super, super quick, right to the point episode, but I like to throw these in here and there. And honestly, I didn't have a lot of time to record this week, but I still wanted to get the episode out for you all. Never missing a Monday, never missing an upload. We're many years in now. We can't do that at this point. So thank you all so much for your support and for listening in. Again, please send me any episode recommendations, topics you want me to talk about over on Dental Download Podcast on Instagram. That way I can keep planning things out for the year. And with all of that said, I will talk to you next Monday.